Good evening. My name is Melinda Duffy, and welcome to my channel, Life Without Limits. We talk to real estate professionals for the most part. There will be some business people that are possibly not related to real estate, but we're here to explore um, what life is all about in business, making relationships, building relationships that last a long time, and wanting to grow the community and help each other in doing that. So, welcome to the channel. And my first guest is Mando of Money Making Mando. Mando is out of New York, and Mando is great. Him and I have formed a wonderful friendship, and definitely looking forward to building that relationship even deeper and longer with you, Mando. And I am going to give you the floor so that you can introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into this space?
Thank you, Melinda. Again, appreciate you for having me on in your inaugural episode. So I'm honored for that. And again, we've met through a mastermind that we belong to, which is Owners Club, which is Pace Morby and Jamil's Damg's baby. And I'm super stoked to be in that. So shout out to them first and foremost. And yeah, my journey in real estate started 2025. I said more than 25 years ago. I could even go further than that. It started my mom. My mom was an investor, but she wasn't an investor here in the States. She would invest in her native Costa Rica. The reasons why, because my dad was a 9 to 5er, like a worked 40 years, never called out sick. That was kind of his avatar. He was old school in those ways. So he would just get to work, get home, leave me alone. Let me take a shower, drink a beer. I'm cool. Any other aspirations and goals and stuff like that, again, that wasn't his thing, but that was hers. She's passed now. And she was a big dreamer, always very curious, always very trendy, and always wanted to test herself. She had that immigrant spirit. I guess something about immigrants that they come here, they don't know where to start, what to do. So she always had that spirit in her. And I just recall when I was younger, she would drive by, we would drive, and she was, "Oh, I like this building. We should think about buying it." And my dad was like, "No, no, like, no, how are you going to do that?" Just the limited beliefs. And that's kind of sometimes dream killers, right? So, but it didn't deter her. And I guess she pivoted and she said, "You know what? I'm going to invest in my native country," which she did. She also knew that my father hated to fly. So she said, "Okay, so I can go back home, I can invest, and I don't have to have him on my back." Right. So during the summers, I would go with her like 5, 6 summers in a row. We would go. She had sisters there, and her sisters would plan out stuff for her to do, opportunities that might be around, and empty plots of land where she can build, farmland, coffee fields, strawberry fields, stuff that again that my aunts would source for her, and she would just then go around and make decisions, and that's how she invested. She would buy plots of land, build on them, hold as she would hold on properties as well, and then sometimes you just flip it. So she did it all. She had coffee plantations, strawberry fields, like I mentioned. So I kind of learned through watching her, through observation, and eventually, when I got older, I was she helped me get into my first investment. So I've been active, let's say 20, 25 years, but I've been around it all my life though. My adult life, my teenage years.
Oh, that's awesome. What a wonderful mentor, in your mother. You learn just priceless information.
Yeah, and I got both perspectives because I learned it at home. So as you grow older and you grow into yourself, you reflect back and you say, "Wow, I had both perspectives." Right? As someone who had a abundant attitude, who's willing to be curious, willing to test herself and take chances and be a dreamer and turn her dreams into realities.
Mm.
And the opposite side, nothing against my dad, but he was just kind of very consistent in his space. Like I said, a 9 to 5er in that workforce, very committed. And I never called out sick. I just remember growing up, He was always performed. He was never sick. He would always go to work. I never see anything different, and which was awesome because it shows you a work ethic as well. So
That's right.
there's value in that as well. So again, it was awesome, just reflecting on those perspectives and how you carry yourself and what parts of him are you, what parts of her are you, how it all molds and it becomes you, right?
Yes.
So it's awesome.
And it really is so inspiring, from a perspective of, growing up with that and you making a decision, which way you wanted to go. Your mother, exposed you to a completely different world.
For
Of
sure.
which, if it was just your dad and your mother was, just followed suit and was, a homemaker and things like that, that didn't have aspirations, that, you wouldn't have had that exposure. And that's just awesome how, the mentoring process, whether it's your parents or whether it's somebody outside your family, it sets you up for success and you didn't have to recreate the wheel.
For sure. My mom was a go-getter. She was a hustler. She would sell purses and colognes at her job and stuff like that. Always looking for that extra dollar. And again, taking those chances. And again, that's what she did. She was a straight hustler. Well, here in New York City, she was part of that culture, that moving and shaking. So I got to see it at home. And it was awesome. And I get a lot of inspiration from that as well, and I learned so many lessons. And she prepared me a lot, especially financially. I never encountered those financial struggles that young people happen to go through. Stepping into that world, like getting your first credit cards, like stuff like that. That you have to be mindful, budgeting and financing, and having the mindset to don't live above your means, especially when you're young and you're getting a credit card. Let's say you're in college. A lot of times here, when school starts back again in the fall, especially in around the surrounding colleges, all the credit card companies used to be outside, and people applying young people to get credit and all that. So those trappings I learned at home. So I was super prepared. I never had those pitfalls. So again, I just compounded off that growth since I learned so young. I was very fortunate.
That is awesome. And you do hit upon a major issue about parents not teaching their children where to start, how to utilize credit for your advantage. I know my parents didn't teach me that. It was kind of, with my generation, it's not something that your parents talked about. They didn't talk about finances. That was one of the things. You didn't talk about finances and politics. You just didn't talk about it. So there wasn't the open book to be able to understand and learn and to grow with that. So I love the fact that you were given that opportunity at such an early age. And now, in turning around and helping other people and even helping other youth to be able to understand and leverage correctly and build themselves a successful financial path going forward, instead of, like you say, falling into the pitfall. You get a credit card, you run it up, you don't really understand how to balance and how to budget, and then you've already ruined your credit out of the gate.
Very much so. And those are very pitfalls that, as a young person, you don't even know what's happening on the back end with your credit profiles. That's the last thing you're thinking of. You're just living, right?
Yes.
And just one day you grow up, and let's say there's things that you want to do, and then you find out this is what happens when you're not responsible. You've been delinquent, and now you have to play catch up. You have to now it takes time to reverse engineer all that's happened, right? Depends on the gravity of whatever's happens. Again, and a lot of people are not mindful of that because they don't have that base, that education.
Right.
And I encountered that just growing up. A lot of my friends, they literally fell in those trappings, and I would see it, I was like, wow, this is, and maybe I could impart more wisdom at that age. Everyone's young and they don't, again, people not thinking about stuff like that. And again, and some people learn through observation, and some people have to go through those experiences to really kind of, feet by the fire and say, oh man, I'm not going to do this again, right? I'm going to be more mindful in the future. Unfortunately, you had to learn that way. But again, it's all a growing process, right?
It is. It definitely is. And something that you can teach to other people, and
Sure.
that's also what it's about, and about building a community and relationships. It's about helping people see from a different perspective so that they can, learn from others instead of, going through your own process and failing. So that's great. Um, Tell us about your first deal.
Uh, I bought a single family house in Florida. I'm here in New York City, but there was a time that we lived in Florida, down in South Florida. And I always had affinity to Florida, South Florida. I always loved it as a kid growing up. As a kid, you're outside, you're playing, you're in a pool, everything. There's so many things to do outdoors. And it's totally a contrast to being in New York. It's just, the concrete jungle. So I always had affinity for South Florida. And I would travel there every year for sure. And I decided to buy a house in South Florida. That was going to be my first investment. And kind of my mom helped me purchase the property, helped me with my down payment, and walked me through it. And it was it's retail, nothing creative yet. This stuff is all new, right? So it was traditionally, let's say, right? So I was able to do that, and I rented it out, but it was still long distance. I did have some family in Florida that can periodically check on it, even though back then I didn't have those systems to think about how stuff works. I would just react if something were to happen, right? And then so I was kind of very reactive. But yeah, that was the deal. It was a single family home, which I still own. And I did a burr a couple years ago. I remodeled it. But yeah, and I learned a lot. I learned how to manage long distance. I managed how to manage people. I manage there's something sometimes let's say you can get some more rent from a property, right?
Mm-hmm.
But me being long distance, I had to figure out, does it make sense to jack the rents on a property, look for a new tenant instead of just staying with the tenant you have and you're satisfied with the communication, how the property is being kept,
Mm-hmm.
and sacrifice maybe hiking the rent for the sake of getting more money, and you have a tenant that you don't have a relationship with,
Mm-hmm.
and it might end up not in a good situation for the sake of getting a couple extra dollars, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So little things like that, having distance in a way that you have to be mindful, and I grew into that. And then I eventually, that property, I Section 8 it. I put into a program because I say, you know what, I think it's gonna turn out better having let's say a housing authority pay the mortgage, let's say, that I have to depend, let's say, on a tenant per se,
Right.
and have those lapses. So I say, you know what, let's Section 8 this property where I can have a constant income, knowing again that I was a distance away. Little things like that you have to kind of think of on the go.
Right.
But yeah, those are kind of the quick little experiences that I had with that property, just in hindsight.
Yeah. And how has the Section 8 gone?
It's not Section 8 now,
Okay.
but I had it for years. I had two long-term tenants there for years and years. One was 8 and the other one was about 10. I think 8, yeah, about 8 to 10 years each. And they were great. There were ladies, there was families. So they're very responsible. Sometimes you don't get those, but I was very fortunate that they were just regular common folk looking for a place to live. And so again, those experiences are great. There was very seamless.
Oh, that's awesome. Not too many people in the landlord world can testify to that. There's a lot of issues.
Listen, I've had those as well. I have a fourplex here in New Jersey,
Mm-hmm.
and I Section 8 one of the apartments about 7 years ago, and I went to the housing authority. I did all the requirements, and I I received a voucher from a tenant. It ended up to be a tenant from hell. This tenant had two small children that she was going to move into the house with. It was a 3-bedroom, 3-1. Okay, cool. She's going to move in. I had no inclination what was going to happen. And I know my super calls me maybe like a month later. Hey, there's a fight in the hallway. Her kids are fighting. They're throwing tables and chairs. I'm like, she has 2 toddlers. What are you talking about? In my head, I'm like, what is it? Lo and behold, she just claimed that she had 2 small toddlers, but she actually had 8 other kids. 8.
Oh my.
So she was slowly trickling them in.
Oh, good.
Trickling them in till it became home. She was hustling. She knew the game and the system. So the cops got involved because it was her teenage boys that were fighting each other, So the cops kind of got involved, and that's kind of how I really found out what was happening. And then that was not what I signed up for. So I had to figure out how to resolve this, right? Because this is not what I wanted, and then I started figuring out she knows how to play the system. She's a hustler. She knows what she's doing. She's professional at this.
Yeah.
So lo and behold, I went to the housing authority. I explained the situation. They were flabbergasted. They were dumbfounded. They didn't know what was going on. Again, cool. At that point, I was like, how do I get myself out the situation? They was like, well, you kind of stuck in here for a while. So they say that you could write a certified letter 90 days prior to her voucher being up, so she was there for another 8 months. It wasn't the best situation, but I knew that I had an exit. So I followed up with whatever housing authority required me to do prior to those 90 days. I did. And at that point, I just my vision in my head is her returning my keys, and her turning her back and walking away. That was the vision. That was the vision I had in my head. This is what I was like, okay, I want the day to come, her give me the keys, and I see her turn around and walk away. That was my goal. So whatever I had to go through, had to endure, which was cool, but I already knew that's the vision I had, and I experienced it literally, and I remember to the day. Correct. I had leverage on her voucher because of what she was doing, right? So she had no problem in leaving the property because her voucher was more important than staying.
Of course, that was her ticket.
For sure. So you have all experiences, you have them. I've had a couple.
Yeah. Just a couple, huh?
Yeah. You've been around, you kind of have to be a psychologist. You got to have to pick and choose your fights.
Yeah.
Right. Again, you have to, assess the situation and then figure out what's the best recourse.
Right.
At this, as an investor, we're problem solvers, right?
Yeah.
The harder things, that's kind of what we do, right?
Yeah.
So you have to have a plan, and like I said, I had a vision of what I wanted to accomplish with said tenant, and it's just following those steps to get there, right?
Right. Yeah. Patience and perseverance, right?
Yeah, you learn as you go. There's nothing I can do right now. Just stabilize, like I said, stabilize the patient, right? Literally, just stabilize that. Keep everything in an even keel. They know what's going on. You're aware now what's happening. Let's just ride this out smoothly and make a smooth transition of you out of here, basically.
Yes. Next.
Yeah, literally next.
Yeah.
I say that a lot. Problem solved. Where's the next one?
Yep, that's right. On to the next one. Yeah. That's what life is. It is about solving our own problems as well as helping others solve their problems.
Absolutely.
That is part of it.
Yeah.
So let's move forward to what are you working on now in your real estate career, and what are you working into? What's your vision?
Great question. I have about 10 doors now. I had some partnerships and some multifamilies prior to COVID, which we exited. And now being in this community, I'm focusing on the rent by room strategy, the co-living model. This is what I'm focusing on now and strategizing and growing into. I love the concept. Not only is housing affordability a real crisis, right?
Right.
People's salaries are not matching the cost of living. That's a bad thing. People are not getting as married as much, having a family, a nuclear family as they used to be. People are more transient, and that's kind of why I like this model that you can rent by the room, and it's something that it can be a temporary fix that you can stay in a place, let's say 6 to 8 months, and then you could build yourself up to another situation.
Right.
So this model, what I'm looking at is like 6 to 8 bedrooms is kind of the sweet spot, like three bathrooms. So there's some criteria that you want to match up the ratios, the bathrooms to the bedrooms, and you also have a type of buy box that you can accommodate this. So for this model, you want more like a 2,000 square foot property. Depends on the class. It could all depend, what your strategy is, and you have to give. So my focus is on the workforce population, $30,000 to $60,000, people who make and those people usually work in bars, superstores, super centers, ballparks, bowling alleys, whatever it may be, restaurants. So I'm catering to major cities, right? Or maybe just outside of major cities where these people and these jobs are still super necessity is a super necessity for have these type of employment, but they can't live 2 hours away, right? So
Right.
yeah, so that's why I love this model where you can then get into a property, retrofit it, bring in this profile of person in, create a label of stability, some community as well, and everybody kind of wins. So that's kind of the models I'm focusing on now, which kind of Pace brought to our attention, being in his community. And the more you think of, well, the more I thought about it, the more I love the concept. It's like having a single family home with multi-family returns.
Yeah.
Right? So you can have one home that you're renting by the room, and you can have 7, 8, 9, depends the size of the house, and you're receiving monthly rents because there's platforms that you can work with that do a lot of the sourcing of the tenant, like Pad Split. So they will source the tenant, and you just have to manage the property itself. So they alleviate finding the tenant, but you just got to take care of the property itself, maintenance. If you want to have a property manager in place, so you don't get the calls if something happens, so you kind of uh, build those margins in prior to purchase a property. Again, being mindful of all these things. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm focusing on now, and I'm looking forward to get into my first property with this strategy at the end of the first quarter next year.
Awesome. Very good. And so what areas are you actually targeting?
Right now, I'm really focusing on Dallas, Central Florida, the I-4 corridor, Tampa, Orlando areas.
Right.
I built some relationships in those areas, North Carolina as well. Again, those are the three kind of areas I've kind of focusing on. But now it's really I'm honing in more on Dallas. You kind of have to be super intentional as well, and not just be scattered. So Dallas is kind of where I'm setting foot and expanding, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm super excited.
That's exciting. That really is exciting. And I know that you will be successful in that space as well.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, so now it's just partnering with the right people, right? This is a people to people business. So whatever you kind of lacking, you have to then work on those relationships, right?
That's right.
Let's say I'm not a wholesaler, so I need access to properties to be able to
Mhm.
make a decision and pull the trigger. I need to foster those relationships, right? You have to
Right.
get around these type of people that can then source you these leads to be able to execute. You have to meet people, boots on the ground. You have to establish relationships in that local market, however it be. So real estate agents, contractors, whoever it is, right? Or somebody that knows somebody, and you start making these calls and just building out foundations where when a situation happens, especially doing long distance like I am, you kind of have to strategize that out front and leverage whoever is locally in those communities that can serve as your eyes and ears. For those who are listening and looking to get in something like this is kind of how I think stuff out.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. My whole entrepreneurial career has been leveraged on relationships, networking, your sphere of influence, helping others build their business at the same time they're helping build yours. It is about those relationships and knowing that, like, if you have a friend of yours or colleague that's like, hey, Mando, I need a general contractor or a home inspector or realtor in this area, especially they know that you're working in the in the Central Florida location, with your contacts that you have fostered, building those relationships, you're going to feel comfortable turning your friend over to that contact because you know that they're going to do right by them, that they're going to take care of them, and that's really what it's all about.
Oh, absolutely. Again, this is such a people-to-people business. You're always looking to build relationships, even online. Pro tip: join these Facebook groups. Right? We're in Pace Morby's free creative Facebook groups. Right?
Yep.
Any Facebook group local to an area that you're interested in investing, start building those relationships to people who are local to that market. Right? And always kind of work on your weaknesses. Right? Identify them, be aware of them, and do something about it. So be mindful of that. If you have a weakness in underwriting, let's say, don't fear it, don't run from it, embrace it and get better. Right? If you have whatever things you want to conquer, you have to recognize it, work at it, and get better, and turn it into a superpower. And that's and I tell you that because that's what I've done. I kind of recognize some stuff that I need to get better, and I'm more of a visionary. I'm a big thinker, big idea type of person by nature. I'm very artsy as well. So getting into the details of things is not my thing, but I knew how to get better. I had to challenge myself to get better. I joined a community. Shout out to Mike Manatsakanian. He has a wealth through real estate community, a super investor community that I got into. And again, is a source of connecting with other like-minded investors who have that same journey that you can leverage relationships and all that. So it's a multi-pronged effort, right? You educate yourself, you connect, you get better, and then opportunities come in the back end.
That's right. That's right. And I will speak to Michael Mastakanian as well. He is an outstanding gentleman, has tons of real estate experience, and he is creating that space within our community to to really give everyone the tools that they need so they don't fail. He's already done all of this stuff, a lot of these things, and it's really great to have people that stand out in the community that want to do that.
For sure.
Yeah.
Nah,
It's tremendous help.
No, yeah, he's awesome. I love the guy. Shout out to Mike. Anyone who wants to join back to the community, if you download the school app, SKOOL, the school app, you can join his wealth through real estate community, and he's active there. That he has live events on every Wednesday. So again, anyone who wants to join is get on that school page app and join wealth through real estate with Michael Manatsakanian, and we'll see you there.
Yep. Awesome. We will. Well, Mando, I thank you so much for joining me this evening. And you have walked me through my first video, which is great. And thank you for being so gracious.
Again, the pleasure is all mine. I'm here to help as always, Melinda. So thank you. And thank you for taking the leap and believing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, then we'll sign off for now. And we look forward to seeing everyone back on my channel, Life Without Limits. And you all have a good evening. Thank you again, Mando. Appreciate your presence.
Take care.
You too.